Our first order of business is to recognize the ancestral, unceded, tidal territorial lands of the Squamish, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh peoples. So inviting forward Skeletal Tunat, Chief Jen Thomas, and Simple Yan, Councillor Stuart Gonzalez, inviting you forward, CM, to follow protocol, inviting so many guests into your tidal lands, CM.
Hello, everybody. My ancestral name is Skeletal Tunat. My English name is Jen Thomas, and I'm the elected chief of Tsleil-Waututh Nation. My ancestral name comes from my late grandmother, Mabel Charles from Semiahmoo. And I just lost her a couple weeks ago, and she was a survivor. So sharing my name means a little bit more. She really wanted to share as much of her culture, her teachings with us before she passed. So, I hold my hands up to her, to all the survivors that are here with us tonight who keep on moving forward to ensure that us, live a way of life to keep our young ones, to keep our future generations coming along. So I'm forever grateful to our elders, to our survivors, and I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up here tonight, to our matriarchs, our leaders, our cookbees, our chiefs, our council members, thank you. I'm truly honored to be here with all of you tonight. So on behalf of our nation, Tsleil-Waututh, and also for Chief Wayne Sparrow, who is unable to make it here tonight, also wants to welcome you, to the shared territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Welcome.
Oh, Siam, Squalowins, wait. Quan Mantomi, Siam, Ant, Simplian, Tinachinkla, Musqueam, Squamish, Stalmokchit, Tsleil-Waututh, Quan Mantomi, Siam, the Guachnomi up, Siam, One Hot, Squalowins, wait, Siam, Chin Quan Mantomi, Siam, Salt Owanuk, Quan Sayat, Quan Mantomi, Siam, to Lolum Chawan Sweet, One Hot Squalowins, wait, CM Squalowins to Sioko Quachit, Quan Montomi CM to EM Squalowins Chaya. Oh, that's as much Squamish as my nephew said. My ancestral name is Simple Yan. My English or given name is Stuart Gonzalez. I am elected council for Squamish, and really grateful for each and every one of you. Thanking my nephew, Salto Wanuk, for singing for us this afternoon, this evening. Thanking and honoring all our survivors that are in the room. Again, thanking you, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish. We are grateful that you arrived safely here. Just down the hill here is a village called Eilchim, means under Littlefoot, known as Sunset Beach. I live close to Eilchim, close to English Bay. My home village, I grew up in Musqueam. My late mother's from Musqueam. My late father's Squamish. I grew up on a village called Slahan, known today as Aslahan, Mission Indian Reserve. I'm an Indian day school and residential school survivor. And so when I hear and I see our young people grasping on to who we are, it gives me hope. So no matter how many times they beat me in residential school, no matter how many times they beat me in Indian day school for speaking Halkanipman, my mother's language, for speaking Squamish, my father's language, I still kept as much language as I could. I'm not as fluent as my nephew, but he is one of my teachers, teaching me the more intricate construction of language. And for me, that's powerful. And you know, the most amazing thing is the songs we sang go back thousands of years. That one song we offered in Chokmut Slolum talks about unity. We are human beings. Human beings from the time we wake up in the morning, human beings to the time we go to sleep. And the testimonies that we shared at the TRC, we shared that our classmates were going missing. We shared that people, our classmates, our friends, our peers weren't with us. And we all have stories. And the heartbreaking news last Friday, Star Blanket, Saskatchewan, heartbreaking. I sobbed. I ride my bike every morning. That's a way for me to have connection with Creator. And, you know, I sobbed, and I will continue to sob. We at Squamish, we are very close to making our disclosure. And, you know, it's heartbreaking. You know, the one thing that Indigenous people across Canada, our residential schools had graveyards. In public school system across the country, there are no graveyards at public schools. What does that tell you? Again, the strength that we have for all our residential school survivors, our Indian Day school survivors, and our 60 Scoop survivors. These are three critical pieces of legislation that are in place. Again, we need to go back to 1492, the Doctrine of Discovery. We need that document destroyed so that we can have independence. And when I traveled with the delegates, the primary and secondary delegates to Rome, and I sat in that room with the Pope and many survivors, I seen the strength of who we are as Indigenous people. Roseanne and Judy, we were all in the room together, and you know, the amazing thing is we're still here. We're still here, and we're still going to persevere. And like many of us survivors, we are in a canoe. I'm going to be 62 in a couple weeks, and I'm still in the canoe. I'm still riding my bike, and we're going to continue to do what I've always done. Prior to being on council, I was a Squamish language and cultural teacher with our youngest population, teaching our Skakko, our babies, our Se'etwash, our toddlers, and our Muntmun, our 3 and 4-year-olds, our traditional songs, dances. But I also included the use of sign language with my lessons, because we want our children to flourish. We want our children to be successful. That wasn't the agenda of Indian Day schools, residential schools, or 60 Scoop. They want to break the backs of us Indian people, and we're still here. Thank you for this opportunity. I was given the name Talks a Lot at the Residential School Conference in 2005. I don't know where they got that idea from. Apparently, I was at the mic for several times. Chin Kwanman Tomi Apsiam. I'm grateful to you all. Thank you.
Skalitalat Tanat Siam, Siplian Siam, Haichka Siam, Haichka. Thank you for inviting us into your territories. A couple of housekeeping things before getting into the more business. Coming back to us as a gathering of nations, I forgot to recognize all of our relatives that are watching us via webcast. Unfortunately, it is a one-way conversation there. We don't have the means or mechanism to have a two-way conversation, but do want to acknowledge all of those that may be joining us online tonight and over the next couple of days. And again, because we're a gathering of nations, a gathering of societies, of heritage, of culture, of spirituality, and thank each and every one of you for having the generosity in your heart to witness and embrace Coast Salish style of how we do business here tonight and over the next couple of days. There is a tremendous amount of richness of heritage and culture and spirituality across the country. We're glad the opportunity that we have to share with you. We're going to have a number of speakers here tonight. I'm not going to go over their biographies. I know they don't like that in a way, but it is in the pamphlet that each of you received. And I'm going to start with Cookbee Judy Wilson, who is on the executive of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. And for those of you that aren't aware, in British Columbia, we have 3 Chiefs organizations: the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, First Nations Summit, the BC Assembly First Nations. They all come together as the First Nations Leadership Council, representing all 204 First Nations here in BC. So turning it over to Cookbee for some remarks on behalf of the Leadership Council.
White Kaitep. I just wanted to say the ceremonies were so moving and the songs were so touching of our hearts, and the lighting of the oils from the Arctic and the Inuit are resonating through the whole room and touching us, and I think those are the ways, our own ways of knowing for our people. And that's the only thing that we're going to survive, is our culture, our language, and our ways of knowing, because that's who we are. And I find as a second-generation survivor, it's good to see all of that coming back. My father, Grand Chief Joe Manuel, he went to Kamloops, and the language was beaten from the students. The culture wasn't allowed, and he wasn't allowed to even see his own family. And he spent from age 5 to age 16. But he feels ready this time to come down and make a statement. He wasn't ready before, but he'll be here tomorrow to do that. And, it's the first time in many years he's been speaking about his experience. So I wanted to recognize all of the survivors and the second generation, all the ones that, came through that part of our history, to be able to share their experience, because it's so important to do that. And I want to thank Chief Jen and Councillor Gonzalez for your gracious and warm welcome to us on behalf of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. And I wanted to thank Kimberly Murray for her work and her invitation to First Nations Leadership Council. So I'm part of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs executive member, and I'm also part of the First Nations Leadership Council. And my other colleagues, I know they would be here if they could. And I know Grand Chief Stuart Phillip would send his love to you and his thankfulness for all of the ones being in the room. So I think the survivors and the intergenerational survivors that are here, and also the ones that are watching from home, because a lot of our people couldn't be here. But the survivors and their families have that heavy burden of truth, that they've carried for many centuries, as I mentioned with my dad. And they're finally able to share the truth and, to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to make our history known. So many have not shared their story before, but they're coming forward to do that. So sharing our truth and courageousness and the years of persistence and strength of truth-telling has helped bring justice to many of our lost families and community members, and gives hope to our future generations for healing and rebuilding. So this conversation that we're having today, and the conversations we'll have over the next few days, is long overdue. Acknowledgement of the truth we have known, with our children and our relatives who were stolen, like many who are here in the room. Like you, I'm carrying also that grief for the children who never came home to their own families and their communities, as well as those that did after the suffering of those unspeakable harms they endured. And of course, as I mentioned, this includes my own family. And I know some of families in our interior region, 5 members might have went to the school and only 1 came home. I don't know where that happens at and why it's not investigated, and At least there's one survivor that can tell the truth and what happened. So I'm heartened that our truths are finally coming to light, and that because the government and Canada at large can no longer deny these realities. And I know when the Pope was here, like many of you, we had to press the issue, and we had to be there to let the Pope know he needed to be able to come forward with an apology, a recognition that it was genocide. And I know he didn't say that till he left on the plane. And, you know, with Regional Chief Gerald Antoine, National Dene Chief, I know he went, you know, to Rome, to the Pope twice, you know, and it was important that our delegations went there. I know there was, you know, it was really important that we had the truth-telling there as well. So the First Nations Leadership Council is committed to continuing to hold the federal and provincial governments and the churches and the Pope accountable in this genocide. So I wish all of the members here, the ones that are attending and the ones online, you know, for a very way of sharing, a good way of sharing over these next few days at the gathering, for that truth-telling and the knowledge as well, because we're learning from one another and supporting one another as we endure forward in our journey for justice and healing. So the time is now, and with the UN Declaration as well, you know, it's the time is now. That all the alignment is there now to support our survivors in telling their truth, so we can start the healing with our families and our children, because it's really important what I'm seeing in these ceremonies. We have to do our own healing. We have to be able to support one another in that work, and we're the only ones that can do this. So my hands go up to all of those that have been doing this tremendous work over the years, and the ones that are going to carry it forward. And I know my heart also goes out to, you know, the ones, the 2,000 that were just found as well. It's just as heart-wrenching when we found the truth of the 215. So, you know, as we see any of the ones that are starting their truth finding at the residential schools, the numbers keep growing. And it's not just here in our north of the border, it's also in the south of the border. There are many children being found at residential schools in the United States as well. We have important work here to do the next few days, and I'm glad there's caretakers here, so I want to acknowledge the caretakers that are here taking care of us in prayers and ceremonies as well, and smudging us off, because we need that too, because that's our ways, and I'm glad to see it started out that way. And all of the youth that are here too, they're witnessing some very important work, and I see some youth right in front of me, and the youth dancer as well. So Cook's Jam, and thank you for allowing the First Nations leadership a few moments of your time, and we'll continue standing with you to continue this journey that we're on, and I know we'll do it in a good way. And all the ones, I see so many people here that have worked over the years, and I applaud your work and I support your work. Cook's Jam.
Cook's Jam Cookbee, now from the national side of things, inviting forward the Assembly of First Nations National Chief Roseanne Archibald for some remarks, please. National Chief. So glad you could make it. Oh.
Sorry. Wachiamaswe. Roseanne Archibald at Tishnakasan, Dagatag Moshakata Koachian. Monashko is Gashkitan Gichimoyan, Sagochmakan Kiskonomas Gichnita Yoyan. First, I want to acknowledge the Creator, the world around us, and our place within it. I want to thank the leadership, the families, relatives, and ancestors of our host nations for welcoming us, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. I'm actually wearing this cedar hat. Some of you have seen my formal headdress, but I'm wearing this cedar hat that was given to me by the leadership and community of Chehalis, which is part of the Stalo Nation. And I wanted to share with you, I have two traditional names that were both given to me by different nations. My first name, which I received, I think about 35 years ago, is Matokpishihotawe, which was given to me by the Lakota Nation south of the Medicine Line. And recently, I was given the name Quinqua Laukwa from the families in Namgis, which is a part of the Kwakwakiwak peoples. And so I wanted to invite Regional Chief Antoine to come up and join me on the stage. Many of you know him as Dene National Chief and Northwest Territories Regional Chief. He does lead the portfolio for the Assembly of First Nations on residential institutions. He led the delegation to Rome, and he has led our involvement at the AFN with the papal visit. And I just want him to stand with me because I'm going to have him make some comments as well. But first, let me say that the songs, the ceremony, and the dance from Shantae King, and the work today that we witnessed, and the work in the coming days that will happen in the next 2 days is proof, as Cook P. Wilson said, Cook P. Judy said, that we have survived this onslaught of these institutions. We have, as you, the many survivors out there, I want to lift up my hands to you, as they say here on the West Coast. I want you to know that I love you, that you're in my heart, that your experiences and the things that you survived are the reason that we are still here, that we can watch Shantae do her hoop dance, that we can hear those beautiful songs that started this gathering, because we never let go of those important things. And it is survivors who went through those institutions of assimilation and genocide. I don't call them schools, because no school, I didn't go to a residential school. I was the first in my family to not have to attend. And so I went to school, to public schools. And like Councillor Gonzalez said, no school I ever went to had a graveyard. No school I ever went to had children buried in unmarked graves. So I don't call them schools. I call them what they were: institutions of assimilation and genocide. And so you as survivors that are sitting in this room are so precious. And I thank you. I thank you on behalf of all of the people across Turtle Island for what you have endured, for what you have walked through. And you may have heard me say in a couple of other speeches a quote that the truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Set it free and it will defend itself. And that's what this moment is about. That's what this conference is about, is getting everyone on the same page of truth. All the survivors in this room know the truth. All the survivors in this room experienced the realities of those institutions. And the truth is not always accepted outside of this room because of this issue around data and knowledge, information. And so this gathering is really important about getting on the same page with the rest of all of the people across Turtle Island, because the truth is being revealed and it will continue to be revealed. And the latest being the small baby's jawbone that was found at Capel Institute near LeBret, with 2,000 potential little ones that need to be identified, need to be properly buried, need proper ceremony. They need to be given proper ceremony. And so, Regional Chief will talk more about families and the impacts of these institutions. And I'm really happy to see the supports that are here, because it's such a hard, hurtful thing to have to look at over and over. And I wanted to acknowledge some of the people that I saw here who are great advocates, like Phyllis. Phyllis, can you stand up? I'm not sure if everybody saw you. So, as we all know, Phyllis is responsible for the creation of Orange Shirt Day. I see many orange shirts out there, and so I raise my hands to Phyllis for the amazing work that you've done. I see some chiefs in the room. And when we had a meeting earlier, we were up near the Elders Lounge, and they were just doing the burning of the sage and smudging. And so I'm happy to see that supports are here. And I urge everyone over these next 2 days, if you feel that you've activated deep grief or you've activated overwhelming emotions, that you have support in this process, and reach out to those supports. And finally, one of the things I want to tell you about the children who didn't make it home is I believe that everyone in this room can connect themselves to somebody who did not make it home. My personal story is that my sister died at St. Anne's. My mother tells the heartbreaking story of her once. She told me once because it was so hurtful for her to talk about. She also lost her brother in that institution, the same institution. And so know that in this room that we are all connected and that we have all been impacted by this. You know, Dr. Pam Toulouse, who's an educator, said and wrote that 100% of First Nations people suffer from intergenerational trauma. 100%. It continues to reverberate from these institutions into our communities today. And my hope is what I heard an actual survivor say in a meeting, and I've been repeating it, that one day we will go from being survivors to thrivers, that we will be thrivers, that our children and our grandchildren and grandchildren will recognize this and know this to be true, that they are thrivers, that they deserve a good life. So with that, I'll turn it over to Regional Chief to also make some comments. Miigwech.
Masi joga kajaneta tinda say masi neta. I'm very thankful and blessed to be among you. I also like to acknowledge the original nation of families here, also the community of families, and also the nation of communities. We are human beings. We are the original family here. And whatever did happen has happened. We have survived, and we still have a lot of things intact. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you is just two things. One, our family, like branches on a tree, we all grow in different directions, yet our root remains the same. And the second point is about the root with the things that have happened. the evidence of our young people being uncovered is facts, it's true, and it's evidence of what our people have been saying all along. The solution is for us to continue coming together as family and also looking at our own functions and our own responsibility and to restore them and to reconnect with them and to rebuild those things. And we need to help each other work together to do that. And in terms of the data governance, it's your information. You need to be able to continue holding on to that and taking the lead as to how you need to use it to be able to share and also to be able to share with our family and to really look at our processes, our own processes and our own protocols, give ourselves time and space to reflect and so that we could be able to understand ourselves and the situation and just continue being who we are as the original family here. Masi.
Thank you for that, National Chief and Regional Chief. We've heard from First Nations, we've heard from Inuit, particularly with the lighting of the Kulik. Now we'll invite forward Joe Desjardins to share some words on behalf of the Métis. Joe.
Thank you very much. My name is Joe Desjardins. I am part of the kinship with the Métis in the Red River Valley of Manitoba. It's so nice to be here. It's nice to see that Métis are welcomed in this room. Hi, Karen. I know it's so great to see people I recognize, and I'm meeting other people. Thank you for inviting me to say a few welcome words at this third national gathering. I'm the Director of Research for the BC Métis Federation. BCMF is a provincial organization. We support members and communities across British Columbia. I bring a welcome from the President, Keith Henry, the members, to First Nations, Inuit and Métis survivors, elders, families, and communities, and others attending. I want to recognize and acknowledge the traditional territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh, where many Métis live and work. Some years ago, I went to an event at the Agridome in Vancouver, and this is for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission hearings. Over 5,000 people were there, and we were listening to heartbreaking stories, but we're also inspired by the resilience and agency of the many survivors. During the event, I happened to see a man sitting on a bench. We started talking, and I realized he was Métis. Sorry if I get emotional. He was visibly shaken. The reason became clear because when he told me he was a residential school survivor and he had just given testimony. Don's story is deeply rooted in the Pacific Northwest. He attended residential school in British Columbia and then went on to live in the US. Don's story and the ignorance of the Métis experience in residential schools is reflected in the general misunderstanding of Métis peoples in the entire Pacific Northwest. Métis people were invisible. Their stories were shut out of schools and our institutions. If mentioned at all, Métis history and memory in the Pacific Northwest is presented in fragmented ways and mostly related to a prairie diaspora. There is little Métis-led scholarship in writing on Métis who have lived in the Pacific Northwest. So to remedy this, at the BCMF, we started to do research through various projects. We knew we needed to better understand the lived and living experiences of Métis people. We did a literature review. We started to build a bibliography. The BCMF's approach to repatriating this knowledge is very different from the conventional colonial model where research has mostly been done on or for Métis people for the benefit of others. We knew it was vital to control and own our own knowledge. So research must be centered in cared-filled relationships and in community accountability and trust, where the outcome of any knowledge transfer is to enhance community wholeness. Research is relationship at the BCMF. It's ceremony. It's grounded in relationship. And we decided to build community capacity based on this relational model. We gathered a team of researchers from our communities from across the province of BC: Reina, Cindy, Roseanne, Diane, and Karen, and developed community-based research training seminars led by myself, Dr. Bruce Shelby, and Tanner Timothy. Although the process is less efficient and requires patience and understanding, we found that all of our researchers work in the archives and conduct oral history interviews. As they do this, they become self-determining in and through the act of research. If you want to learn more about our research, you can go to bcmétis.com and understand and read some of the stories. There's so much history, as I close here, that needs to be understood on the lived experiences as Métis across the whole of the Pacific Northwest. Our initial research shows that Métis, mixed ancestry peoples, attended most residential schools in BC in significant numbers. So we need a community-based approach to understand this history better, to recognize the intergenerational impact on families. We need willing partners at the table to find meaningful ways to partner with Métis communities to advance our local goals and interests, whether accessing records, whether locating unmarked burials, or identifying our lost children. This work is an essential part of our healing journey as self-determining communities. Meeting Don was a transformational encounter for me. I have learned much from Don and have benefited from his wisdom. Don, it's an honor to be considered your friend. I wish you were here with me today. I hope that my words welcome and honor you. In the same way, I encourage us all to extend our welcome, our generosity, our hospitality, our words of kindness to Métis people, survivors, and communities. Many Métis survivors are not here to tell their stories. Others have lost their voice. Many others are recovering their identity, and still others are restoring lost kinship networks. Métis resurgence cannot be rushed. Our self-determination will occur at the speed of our ability to build relationships. Marcy, thank you.
Merci, thank you, Joe. Next, I'm going to invite forward Rebecca Bly, who is on City Council and currently acting mayor for the city of Vancouver. Rebecca.
Good evening, everyone. I am Vancouver City Councillor and Acting Mayor Rebecca Bly. I'd like to welcome you to the National Gathering on Unmarked Burials, Affirming Indigenous Data Sovereignty. I'd also like to thank our partners, chiefs from both Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and then, of course, Musqueam, who were not able to be here, to acknowledge the lands that we are on, and also just for your continued partnership as we build the City of Vancouver as a city of reconciliation rooted in action. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to welcome you to the City of Vancouver. Your work is crucial, and we are honored to host you. The confirmation of children buried at sites of former residential schools is a tragic example of the atrocities committed against Indigenous people in Canada through the Indian residential school system. It is also a stark reminder that the trauma and pain caused by the systemic abuse are still ongoing and have not been fully acknowledged or addressed. This is a call to action for all of us to take responsibility for our government's role in enacting violence against Indigenous peoples and to actively work towards reconciliation and healing for Indigenous communities. By coming together at events like this conference here, we have an opportunity to find solutions to address the systemic racism that had led to the ongoing trauma and harm to Indigenous communities. The City of Vancouver is committed to upholding the rights and titles of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations as outlined in the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. In 2022, Vancouver City Council passed the City of Vancouver's UN DRIP strategy, first city in Canada to do so. The strategy includes 79 calls to action developed in partnership with the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, focusing on addressing Indigenous-specific racism and discrimination, promoting self-determination and self-government, and protecting the rights and titles of Indigenous peoples. We are honored to have the guidance of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations in this critical work. And as part of our commitment to reconciliation and upholding the rights of Indigenous peoples, we are also enhancing our data through our Healthy City strategy. This public dashboard combines a range of health, social, and well-being data sets at the neighborhood level, focusing on urban Indigenous populations. By prioritizing the rights and voices of Indigenous peoples and working to address Indigenous-specific racism and discrimination, we hope to create meaningful change and improve the lives of Indigenous communities across our entire city. Once again, I'm grateful to have been invited to attend this event. I look forward to learning more about the truth, information, and knowledge that would help us understand history, which will facilitate us to work towards reconciliation and a better future for our children and grandchildren. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful conference.
Hi, Councillor Bly. A couple of housekeeping things. A reminder, if you need any supports, that all of our support workers are wearing their bright green T-shirts. And also, if you go up the escalators one level, there's cultural supports there as well. Just to give you a heads up and prepare yourselves, we've got two more speakers. There's supposed to be about 5 minutes each, supposed to be. Keynotes about 20 minutes. We've got a tremendous cultural performance coming here that'll really lift all your spirits. And then right after that, just to give you a heads up so you prepare yourself, we'll have a moment of silence for the survivors, for the children, for anybody that we can think of, right? And then we'll have a closing song to wrap us up for tonight and get us ready for tomorrow. So with that, I'll turn it back to Scheiskelwit to introduce the next speaker.
At this time, I would like to acknowledge the First Nations Health Authority for their leadership, guidance, and support leading up to this event, and for providing all of the cultural and health supports that are here. You will see throughout our days together. I would like to invite Colleen Erickson, Chair of the First Nations Health Authority Board, to the podium. And again, thank you for your support for this national gathering.
Dineza, Zekeza, elders, leaders, and honored guests, good evening. It is such an honor to be here this evening. My name is Colleen Erickson. I am Dakat from Nakasley, but I've lived and married in Sycas for many years. and I'm honored to be the board chair of the First Nations Health Authority. And I'm here, and I'm very sad that our partner in health governance, the chair of the First Nations Health Authority, Health Council, Wade Grant, is not able to be here this evening, because I know that he would speak very well about the work that they've been doing on the social determinants of health, which affects all our health and wellness in British Columbia. But he had something came up for him, so he was not able to be here. But I'd like to start by acknowledging the territory, the unceded territory of the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh, and thank the people who have endeared themselves to this land since time began for allowing us to conduct this business in their territory. And I'd like to also thank Aaron Williams for the opening prayer and the song, and the elder for the lighting of the fire. Like it really, I said before, it really touches your heart, and it brings us together as one. We're many people across Canada, but those ceremonies bring us together as one. I also honor and recognize the survivors, the families, and the communities who bravely take part in this difficult but necessary journey. I would like only to speak very briefly and simply to inform what the First Nations Health Authority has done to date to support First Nations in BC. When the news about the discovery of the unmarked graves was first announced, we knew that it would be not just an impact on the Tk'emlúps community, but all First Nations communities across BC, in Canada, and in fact the world. And with that, it would impact people on an individual, family, and community level. The First Nations Health Authority, in partnership with the FNHIB, immediately mobilized resources to help support people experiencing trauma and provide services to those who needed them. It was heartbreaking to witness the tremendous impact it had, but there was work to be done. For the FNHA, it was an especially difficult time as we had to balance public health precautions due to COVID-19 pandemic while making sure that we listened to the communities to meet their specific needs. This included investing in surge capacity through Sautim Lalem and the Indian Residential School Survivors Society, which is providing in-person support on the ground in Tk'emlúps, where thousands of people were gathering. We also formed a rapid response structure within the FNHA to allow for faster decision-making and provision of resources, such as Community Support Guide, the IRS supports, and the one-time cultural healing and wellness grants last year in 2022. And though these measures addressed the immediate need, there was still much to be done. And so we have continued and will continue to support First Nations people and communities in navigating this difficult journey as we move forward. This means continuing to support communities with former Indian residential schools or hospitals in their territories through both health and cultural services. We also understand that the response to these findings will be ongoing and require a holistic and long-term approach to healing from trauma and supporting the needs of community in BC. This will take many forms and involve many organizations and agencies, and as such, the FNHA is willing to partner with many. And we are also assisting the special interlocutor and the team in putting on this event. The First Nations Health Authority is coordinating mental health and wellness and cultural supports for this event as well. So please be sure to access these services at any time during the event, as the topics and discussions may be difficult or traumatizing. Support includes mental health and mental health counseling and massage, as well as elder support and cultural supports and cedar brushing, among many things. For as many have said before, the healing is a journey of many. And it will be with ceremony and songs and sharing of food such as we have this evening that will take us on this journey and keep us safe. So it is good to be here this evening and to hear all the words of solidarity, to travel on this path together. And I know if Wade was here, he would remind us that we must make sure that no one is left behind. So thank you.